Hello and welcome to May's Crochet. I am Rachel. Today we will not be crocheting. I'm going to do something I wanted to do last summer but didn't get around to it. I'm going to be coloring a pair of white canvas shoes and then applying some alcohol to give them more of a tie-dye effect, I guess. I've seen this around many times, but Andrea on TikTok last summer, like in June, had she was doing like a daily art camp, and she said this was a really fun project to do for the whole family. And I was like, yeah, I'm gonna finally do it. And then she mentioned these plain white canvas shoes she bought at Walmart for like $15. My Walmart didn't have any, and I really didn't want to spend more money than that in case I messed up. And so every time I went to Walmart every week, I checked for them, but I did not see them until like the end of summer. And so I bought a pair, but by then I was just kind of over it. I didn't really have the desire to do it like in September. So I put them away, and then I found them and I thought they would make a great project for today because I plan on just sitting here and talking about my recent trip to Brazil that I took the first week of June. And I figure I can just color shoes and talk about my experience, have a nice chill time. So I'm gonna start by taking out the shoelaces. All you really need are a pair of white canvas shoes, markers, I think pretty much of any kind as long as they're permanent and not washable. These are particular fabric markers and they are watercolor, but I don't think you have to have some. I think even just Sharpies work, just as long as they're not the washable kids ones, because they will get wet with the alcohol to give them that tie-dye blending effect. And then I think it's suggested to wash them in cold water also and let them dry overnight for everything to set. But that's it. That's all you need. And I'm just going to do a simple rainbow effect. And I'm going to do like one shoe in red, orange, and then yellow, and the other shoe in purple, green, blue, no, purple, blue, green. And that's how the rainbow works. But first, we're going to start off by taking the laces out because we don't want those dyed. We're just going to go with white laces. I'm just going to go with white laces. You do you. So here we are. Here are my warm colors. Here are my cool colors. I'm going to set this shoe aside for now because I'm just going to work on the red side first, or I'm just going to work on the warm side first. But Brazil. So we went for 6 days, the first week of June. Since I'm not used to like taking out my camera and recording every 5 seconds, it was not something I vlogged because I don't do that. I feel weird doing that. It's not for me. I did take pictures and I got a few videos, but overall it wasn't something I felt like doing the whole time. But I can talk about it because I lived it. We were going for a very specific medical conference that happens like once every 3 years, but it hasn't happened since COVID. The last one was in 2019 in Singapore, which we did go to, and we had a great time then too. But this one was in Florianopolis, which is kind of a beachy resort town. I guess I should have like measured how far down I want this. We'll say here. It was in Florianopolis, but it was only for 1 day, and they were going to have their like Brazilian conference after that. But for internationally, it was just one day. And so we spent the bulk of our time in Rio. My mom and grandma came from 1,000 miles away to watch our kids, and things started off a little rocky when their flight, this is not as dark as I hoped, when their connecting flight actually from Dallas got canceled, and we weren't sure if they were going to like make it out in time. So they were supposed to be here by like 3 o'clock on a Friday, and they were still in Dallas until like 9:30 that night. So they ended up getting to Pittsburgh the next morning and then down to our house an hour and a half away, 30 minutes, less than an hour before we had to leave for the airport in DC. So it was cutting it really close. There were times where I thought that the girls were going to have to be here by themselves when we left. I was nervous, but they made it. The horrible irony is though that I was very stressed and trying to get everything done. And I'm like, oh no, I don't have enough time. I just need a couple more hours. They're supposed to be here at 3 o'clock on Friday. I was like, man, if they could just get here like 5 or 7, that'd be great. And then I'd have plenty of time to finish everything up. I did not mean for almost an entire day of a delay to be manifested from those thoughts. So I apologize to my mom and grandma for that one. Flew out of DC. It's about a 3.5 hour trip to the, am I already done with that? I don't know if I'm having enough time to last for this whole video. Anyway, we flew out of DC to JFK, and from JFK we flew overnight 10 hours to Sao Paulo. As a side note, in my last video about my book blanket, I did mention that I had planned on buying a book at the airport because I'd never done that and reading it, and I did. I didn't read it all in the same week, but I did do it because I have trouble reading on planes. But anyway, our flights were very uneventful, thank goodness. Just, 10 hours on a plane is rather long. So we got to Sao Paulo Sunday morning sometime, and then from there we had to wait around a bit until we could fly to Rio. I'm thinking Sharpies may have been better. These don't seem to have a lot of ink in them. So we spent like 3 nights in Rio, Sunday night through Wednesday morning, and we stayed at an Airbnb on like a penthouse floor of a condo building. It was in Lima. I'm gonna butcher a lot of stuff, and I'm very, very sorry, but it was not far from the beach, like a block away from the beach, one of the beaches. The whole place is covered in beaches. It's great. But it was nice. It was a nice, quiet place to be when we weren't out running around and exploring things. It was just nice to come and just be in a secluded place. We had a kitchen and, multiple rooms. We didn't have to be in the same room together, which we love each other, but we like our separate spaces as well sometimes. So when we got in that night, we just got changed, showered, because, it had been a day and a half on planes and in airports and everything. And we just went out to dinner and at a nice place called Joaquina's. And it was funny because the food was good, but the main entree seemed to be taking a really long time. And we're like, what is going on? And they finally came over and told us that they were out of like the collard greens that went with Brad's meal. And they had to go to the store and get some and then come back and cook them. And we just laughed because like here in the States, they'd be like, oh, well, we're out of this. So too bad, so sad. You don't get that in your meal tonight. Monday morning, our first full day, we started off big. Of course, you have to go see the Christ the Redeemer. It's like an international symbol of Rio and Brazil at this point. So we made the trip up there. It's in the Tijuca, again, pronunciation, I apologize, in the Tijuca National Rainforest. So there was a lot of natural wildlife around us, a lot of cute monkeys nobody was supposed to feed. They still ended up with bananas, so I hope nobody was feeding them, but they were just coming out from everywhere. They were really cute, and some kind of anteater type creature. I don't know. It was cute too. But yeah, we went up there and I thought it was really nice views. But there's still a lot of trees, again, a national forest. And our next stop was Sugarloaf Mountain, which is another really big, you have to go up there and see it. And that was a view. You could see, I don't know if you could see all of Rio, but you could see most of Rio, it felt like. So you had to take a cable car to get up there. I mean, the views are definitely worth it, but that's like really all that's there. I mean, there's a couple of restaurants and bars and vendors and things, but nothing else to do up there except take pictures. That was kind of the main day because those two places are so packed with tourists that that's all we really got in because there was a lot of waiting around in line. And plus, just once we got up there, you waited so long, you stay up there as long as you want and then get all your pictures and come back down. So then we just went back to the Airbnb, chilled for a bit, and then went out to dinner at a really interesting restaurant. It was very maximalist. Everything was absolutely covered floor to ceiling, it seemed, in decor. I had a suit of armor just like ominously dangling over my head. It was this deal where you like paid a flat fee and they had a massive like buffet type of sides for like fruits and vegetables, and then they cooked various meats and then brought them around, seafood and steak, no chicken or any other meat, but it was different cuts of steak and different types of seafood. And they would bring them around and be like, hey, do you want some of this sea bass? Do you want some of this steak? Do you want some of this octopus? And, you could say, yeah, sure, or no, thank you. That was like the whole experience. And it was a really neat place. I liked it a lot. And also they asked you where you were from and then stuck a little flag of your country in front of you at the table. I thought that was really cool too. So there were people from all over the world there. It was a really cool experience. I like that. We had to walk that meal off. So we went down because we were just a block over from the beach. So we did a nighttime stroll on the beach. And there's a lot of nighttime volleyball going on there, which I was surprised, but apparently they have leagues and stuff, kind of like how here in the States, there's a lot of softball in summer, a lot of softball leagues. So I guess volleyball was their thing. But yeah, I walked that off and then that was it for the day because we're old and we don't go clubbing or anything. The next day, since my husband loves his fish, we had to go to the aquarium, of course. And also in the same building as the aquarium, like all in the same space owned by the same company. It was like a hall of mirrors which wasn't just a hall, it was multiple rooms that were very illusions and things like that, made with mirrors and lights and stuff. That was cute. And then there was a wax museum that we goofed off at for a while because why not? And we went to, what was next? Oh, the Rio Star, which is their big observation wheel. And anytime there's an observation wheel, I'm probably going to show up. I love me a good observation wheel because it's a great time to just sort of relax, but also take in the city. It's and see things. So this one was down by the water. And my favorite thing about it was, even though I don't watch the show, I guess because season 3 of Bridgerton had just come out, all of the pods were decorated to look like the carriages on Bridgerton, and because they were like 2 benches across from each other, like an actual carriage, whereas some of the pods on these observation wheels aren't like that. There's like just standing room, or there's a table in the middle. There's some that you can get like bar carts on and party the whole time. This is definitely more of a sit down version of an observation wheel. So I thought that was funny. We went to the stairs of Sailor Ronan. He was a Chilean artist, or is a Chilean artist. I'm actually not sure if he's still alive, but he, in the 90s, started decorating this staircase, which is pretty much an alleyway going uphill, very intense, lots of steps. But he started decorating it with mirrors and ceramics, tiles, just absolutely gorgeous, colorful space, and it has become like world renowned at this point. So it's totally free. You just go and you take pictures and you walk and you look at all the art, and there are vendors hanging out. I mean, there's buildings that people live in on the sides there, but there were also vendors there selling stuff, and it was a really neat experience because we felt like it was in the Lapa neighborhood, or between that neighborhood and another one. They're also called the Lapa Steps because of where they're located. But it was really neat because it felt like really authentic. I mean, it was touristy, but you felt like you were deep in Rio at that point. And then we walked down the street, and there were a lot of really great little shops and restaurants and things. I don't know if I want to do the tongue in this little back strip in a color. I'm actually honestly scared at this point I might run out of marker, because this is light. I was expecting something much darker. I really feel like I should have gone with Sharpies at this point, but it's too late now. We're in it. Okay, I think I'm gonna do this back strip in yellow, and then the tongue, and then in red and orange, and split it. So after the steps of Sailor Ronan, a storm was coming, and we had to run for cover. And we headed for the Metropolitan Cathedral of St. Sebastian. It was unlike any Catholic church I have ever seen in my life. It was beautiful. It was designed in a Mayan pyramid type, and it was just like open and stunning, absolutely gorgeous. One of the only videos I got in the whole trip was us sitting in this not quite technically open air church, but they had the doors open, so it felt very open while just the rain beat down outside. And we spent a while in there waiting for the rain to calm down, and it didn't. And they were closing up, so we all had to get out and had to brave the rain, call an Uber and brave the rain. Unfortunately, because of the rain and the time of day, by this time it's like after 5 o'clock. We didn't get to do much else. There were a couple of things like the Portuguese reading room I wanted to check out, the Royal Portuguese reading room I wanted to check out, and a modern art museum, but they closed at like 5. It was Tuesday. Like, I guess they don't stay open at odd hours those times of the week. So we headed back to the Airbnb, dried off, and chilled for a bit, because it felt like we were running around a lot that morning, just from hopping from place to place. Whereas the day before, we had only gone to 2 places. It just took a while to get between the 2 of them and get in line and get our tickets and all that stuff. And then this day felt more rushed, going from place to place to place. Oh, please last. Please, please, please last. So after we made it back from the church and chilled for a bit, we decided to just go to dinner, walk close by. And we found this great like African Brazilian fusion place. It was really good, especially compared to the night before in that super maximalist setting. It was much more chill, laid back. The portions were very good. They were very normal. Nobody was walking around trying to feed you meat all night. Not that I didn't love the first restaurant. It was delicious. It was just the opposite experience of what we had had, and it was welcome. So went to the point where we were able to eat dessert comfortably and not feel like we were going to explode. I had the minced goat. It was very good. I don't think I've ever eaten goat before. And that pretty much wrapped up our time in Rio. We had to be out of the Airbnb the next day around noon or at noon. And I don't think our flight was until 4, but we didn't think we had enough time to get up and run out and do something else for fear of not making out of there in time. And we didn't have anywhere to leave our luggage. You do at a hotel sometimes, which we would have later in the week at some hotels. So we just kind of hung out at the Airbnb and then hopped the plane and went to Florianopolis. So that's our first shoe done. And we're done with Rio, talking about Rio. So yay, I hope this works out much better when we have alcohol on them, because she's looking a little rough right now. So we're going to move on to the other shoe and the rest of the shoe. I'm going to do the front in purple and work back to green because I don't want the red and the green being at the front and people thinking Christmas when they see me coming at them from the front, because I don't like that. That'd be embarrassing. So we flew to Florianopolis that night from Rio. And Florianopolis, I got to say it right. Florianopolis is kind of smaller compared to the other cities we were in. More beach resort area. I mean, there's a proper city, and then you get kind of out on island territory, which is where we were. And it was very dead and quiet. We got to our hotel about 7 o'clock that night, and we were looking for a place to eat, and we had, trying to pull it up on our phones, and there was nothing open in less than like a 20-minute walk from us. And we're like, all right, well, let's set out. We're hungry. And then we saw that there was a restaurant in the hotel, which we didn't see when we had come through and checked in and everything. So we just ate there. And we had a lovely managerial cat looking after us. She was really cute and sweet. That was probably our biggest language barrier moment. They gave us the English menu, and I saw steak with egg. And then when I pointed it to the waiter who did not speak English, he didn't know what I was trying to tell him I wanted. And so I pulled out the Portuguese menu. But for some reason, the Portuguese menu translated to horse steak instead of steak with egg. I don't know what kind of translation goof it was. It was a mess. So I honestly didn't know if I was getting steak with egg or horse steak with egg. I had no clue. It just turned out to be regular beef with egg. So I'm not sure what was up with that, but it was probably our biggest, oh, what the hell did I just order moment. But I'll talk about the language barrier later. I mean, it was my fault, obviously, because I didn't speak the language and I went to another country. So Florianopolis, like I said, it's kind of a resort area. We were on the beach. We had a beautiful beachfront view from our room, but it was very chilly because they're in their fall-winter season. I guess now winter has officially started with the solstice. We were there in what would have been later fall to them. Rio and Sao Paulo are both still very much in the 80s, but Florianopolis was between 60 and 65 during the day. And I did not dare try to go into the water. We were right there on the ocean. I'm like, nah, it's not for me. I'm not playing that game. So I did not don my bathing suit. I just went shopping instead. Literally just went to the mall and stocked up on some souvenirs that we still need to get for some people. One of my favorite things was that I got lost in a bookstore for like an hour, just looking at the various covers and translations of really famous books. I mean, newer books and classics alike. And I ended up buying a couple just to have because I thought it was really cool. I mean, sure, you can order that kind of stuff online, but I just thought it was really neat seeing it in person. I bought myself a copy of Animal Farm in Portuguese, and I bought my mom a copy of Pride and Prejudice because that's her favorite book. So, and they were really cheap too. These paperbacks were only like $3 American. It's silly, it's kind of useless, but I think it's a different kind of souvenir that I know I'm gonna like, and my mom ended up loving her copy of Pride and Prejudice, so it was worth it. We had to be out of the hotel room in Florianopolis and in Sao Paulo both by noon. They did have luggage lockup that we could leave our stuff in and go explore, because Brad was at conference. I was all by myself in I think the locals call it Floripa, but anyway, I was all by myself and I went shopping, but that eventually had end. And they were very cool at the hotel. And they're like, yeah, just come back. You can hang out on the cabana or on the beach or, on the lawn, whatever you want. So yeah, I took the book I got at the airport in DC and went out there and read until he was done and came and got me. And then we headed back to the airport and we flew to Sao Paulo for the night. And the next day, we did not get in until almost 11 o'clock that night. It was much later, and we pretty much just went to bed and then got up and set out on our one day in Sao Paulo. Now, Sao Paulo is the 4th largest city in the world at like 22 million people in the city alone. I am a small town girl, always have been. I have lived in some bigger cities, but nothing like this. And right now I live in a city of like 33,000. It is minuscule, it is tiny, and I kind of like it that way, honestly. Well, we had a good day. It just became very overwhelming by the end of it. So in the morning, we went to this kind of district, very artsy district, and it housed what is called Batman Alley. Beco do Batman is the Portuguese language for it, Portuguese term for it. But it was just this space covered in graffiti, and a lot of it featured Batman. And we don't know why. I'm sure I could look it up and get a history on it, but it's also kind of fun just knowing that it's out there in its existence in the wild, just like, yeah, that place in Sao Paulo that's just covered in Batman. Anyway, but overall, the whole place was very artsy and had a lot of really great shops and art galleries that we explored, bought a lot of really neat things. I'll put the shoes down for a minute to show you couple of the neat things I bought. I named her Vivian. She's a little vampire doll made completely of fabric. Only her hair is made of yarn, but the rest of her is all fabric. I got back and I found the art. I had trouble finding a stand that's good for her because she's tall with these really long legs, but she's also very skinny. So it's hard to kind of get her to stand up. Anyway, I found the artist on Instagram, and it's Red Flower Dolls, I believe. I did comment on the photo she had of this one and said, I just bought her and I'm so happy she's going to remind me of my trip to Brazil. And she was really happy about that. But yeah, she's so cute. I love her so much. And then I also got this little crochet doll. Look at her. And I know there's a whole lot of discussion about what, paying people their worth, especially when it comes to fiber arts or any kind of artistry. She was so cheap in American dollars. I don't know what the cost of living is. I don't know if what I paid for her, which was only 24 US dollars converted. But like, I can't imagine making something. This is tiny. This is very tight, tiny crochet. I can't imagine only charging $24 for something like this. This had to be so much work, but it was in a shop. Like, the artist wasn't there. She clearly makes stuff and sells it to the shop or gets some kind of commission off the shop or something. But anyway, so cute. I think I'm just gonna name her Luna. She looks like a Luna. Luna and Vivian. Vivian's really cute when she stands up all the way, but I can't seem to get her to stand up. But there they are. So my two little dolls, my two little weird dolls from Brazil. I love them. I love them so much. Should I get her to stand? So those are some things I got in Batman Alley, in some of the artist shops. And then we also got some stuff for the girls, but they're kind of hard to explain and they're all in Portuguese, but they loved them. They were really cute. And had lunch at a Batman themed restaurant. Very interesting. Not the first time either. I did it in Singapore as well. It actually was a full DC themed restaurant, but I sat right behind the replicas of the Christian Bale Batman that they had from the Dark Knight trilogy. So not my first time going down that route. Apparently it's something I seem to do whenever I go to a foreign country now. But Batman Alley was really nice because it wasn't, for as big as that city is, it wasn't crazy. It wasn't packed. Like I said, lots of great shops and galleries. There were a lot of street vendors selling their homemade stuff, jewelry, art, all kinds of stuff. It was really nice, pretty relaxing. We spent all morning there, so we really loved it. And we just loved to see the different cultural impacts on art. It's such a great reminder when you go to a place like that. That's where it really thrives. I mean, there's great touristy stuff out there to see, wonders of the world and international symbols of a place. But when you get down into like the real people and what they do and what they make and sell, it's really neat. I like that. Okay, so guess what? The last chunk of the video where I finished coloring this shoe, and my cat and dog are trying to kill each other, it didn't record right, or it got corrupted or something, and it didn't get me finishing this shoe plus the last part of my story on Brazil. It's kind of a bust. I don't like these colors. I don't think they're strong enough. So the Tulip watercolor fabric markers suck, officially. That's my official review. 0 stars. This green, I mean, the video is me just complaining about the shade of green all around. So I'm going to stop for tonight. My dinner should be here very soon, and then we're going to watch The Amazing Spider-Man 2 because we are going through all the Spider-Man movies. It's the only one I haven't seen, so everything will be new to me. I'm very excited. I'm going to come back tomorrow. I'm going to get some Sharpies with some real color variants and some darker, denser ink, and I'm going to redo these. This is after the alcohol's been applied as well, and they're sad. They're nothing like what I wanted. I'm going to try again. I'll finish my story. I'll repaint my shoes, and hopefully it'll be a good end to a crappy middle. It's a new day. Actually, it's pretty late in a new day. I've reset. I had dinner. I watched Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, the only Spider-Man movie I'd never watched, and I actually enjoyed it. I thought I was going to hate it because everybody else crapped all over it. But you know what? I liked it. It's a shame that Andrew Garfield never got more than just No Way Home. Anyway, we're going to finish these shoes. I went ahead and started the purple and the green because I wasn't sure what was going to happen. I had kind of a lime green, and I was putting it over that really ugly, more yellowy green. And then my green, I had to do mostly with this because the brush Sharpies I had, what? I mean, why? I don't know. It was terrible. Absolutely atrocious. So those are going in the trash, but I got through that. As far as the purple goes, I had to use a regular Sharpie because the brush Sharpies I had are not exactly purple, as I discovered. I'm glad I tested everything. Purple brush Sharpie. Why is it pink? Why is it pink? It's so pink. It is indistinguishable from the actual pink brush Sharpie. Actually, I think the pink brush Sharpie is... Nope, they're the same. They're the exact same. I don't know who's in charge of quality control at the Sharpie factory when these came out, but they're terrible. So I did my best to use just this for this purple, and then the rest of this purple I'm going to do with this magenta, which is more purplish than the purple Sharpie. It makes no sense, but we're going with it. And I'm going to finish talking about Brazil. I also decided to add more colors, so I've got more blues, or another shade of blue, and I'm probably going to put pink over here on the warm color shoe just for a little more variation. So back to the trip. We finished up at Batman Alley in the Artist District, and we headed toward a church, another church, Metropolitan Cathedral of Sao Paulo, and it was very cathedral-like what you expect out of a Catholic church. Beautiful, very different than the one we went to in Rio for the Cathedral of Saint Sebastian, which was not like any Catholic church I'd ever seen. But this one had a crypt, which we toured, of course. They had tours, I think, every hour. It was just pretty much bishops and archbishops down there. But it was big and beautiful. I mean, it could have been its own church down there. So we did the church, and then the scary thing happened because we were leaving the church. We went to the backside of the church, and we pulled out our phones to call an Uber, figure out where our next destination was, and we both had 0 internet connection. We were dead in the water, and I was getting really nervous. It took a while. My husband was able to reset his phone, and his came back on, but it was still probably another 20 minutes or so into the ride to our next destination that mine came back on, and it was unsettling. When you're in a foreign country, you don't speak the language, you don't know the area. We were in downtown Sao Paulo at this point. You don't have a map, you don't have a way to call a ride, you don't know the public transit system because you're only going to be there for a day, so the whole plan was just to ride around in Ubers, and now you can't do that, and you don't know where you're going. And I never felt threatened or anything. Like, the people around me never made me wary. It was just the situation of where we were and not being able to get anywhere else. But we did eventually, and we went to what is called Cultural Institute, and that was a really neat experience. It was a building, like, I don't know, 9 stories or so, but like double storied, so 18 from the looks of it. Like, it looked really tall. It's like a library and a computer lab and classrooms and a theater, cafe, restaurant, workspaces, just all kinds of things. And the top 3 floors were exhibition areas, spaces, like just rooms for art exhibitions. So they were currently having an exhibition on all 3 floors of a Czech photo. Well, he was a photographer, and then he became more of a photojournalist when a very scary political uprising occurred. And his name is Joseph Koudelka. His main focus was the Romani people of Central Europe in the 60s and 70s, and then when the Soviets tried to invade. I'm still kind of hazy on some of the facts. In 1968, he did get pictures of the event, and it led to his kind of exile. I mean, he tried to stay anonymous, but he eventually had to leave under political asylum for it, and he didn't get to go back to Czechoslovakia for 20 years or something. So I've never seen something like that before in my small towns. Oh, what color is happening here? Huh, okay. After the IMS Institute, we still had some time. We thought it was only about 5 o'clock. Our flight wasn't leaving until 11 that night, so we're thinking, okay, don't need to be at the airport until 9. And we decided to do one more thing because it was going to be a drive, and we went to their observation deck. It is the tallest one in Latin America. It used to be the one in Rio, but they outdid them a few years ago by building this one 10 feet taller. Which sounds a little petty, but it's okay. But we got to see Sao Paulo all lit up in the dark from up above. It was nice. Fortunately, by the time we were done with it, it was a lot later than we anticipated, and it was going to take an hour and a half to get from our hotel after we collected our bags to the airport on Friday night in Sao Paulo. So we were like, oh crap, because when we had checked earlier, before we decided to go do the observation wheel, it was only 30 minutes, so we thought we had time. Yeah, we didn't at that point, but that's okay. We made it around 9:30 or a little after, which we like to be there 2 hours before a flight, but sometimes these things can't be helped. We still got in, got through security and everything. We're able to pick up the Cochaca, which is the national Brazilian, I know I butchered that, but the national Brazilian alcohol to bring home for ourselves and some friends. And then we got a sandwich, got on a plane, came home, and that was it. It was so great. So this time we didn't fly back to JFK where we had come from. We flew to Miami, so the flight was only 7 hours. And then we were supposed to get a connecting flight back to DC. Unfortunately, it was scheduled way too close to our landing from Brazil. So after getting through customs and getting our bags, rechecking our bags, and getting through security once again, we missed the plane. It was still sitting there. We ran, but the gate was closed, and we had to just hang out in the Miami airport for 7 hours longer than we were originally supposed to. And we did get on a standby flight at 3. We had a guaranteed flight at 5:30, but we got on standby on a noon flight, but we didn't make it, or they didn't have any room, so we didn't get that. But that ticket agent got us on standby at 3:30, and that one did have 10 people not show up, so there were 10 very happy people who were trying to get out of Miami that made it out of there that afternoon. And which at that point you're kind of does it even matter? But when you have a 3.5 hour drive back, coming home at 10 o'clock at night is still significantly better than coming home at midnight, because you're just tired, you're dirty, you haven't had a shower since almost 2 days before. So I was very happy we made it out of there, even with that extra 2 hour window. So this one is pre-alcoholed. We'll do that afterwards. Move on to this other shoe and give my final thoughts on Brazil. So Brazil was great. It was a wonderful place. I enjoyed myself immensely being in another country, experiencing another culture. I always appreciate the opportunity to be able to do that. I will say, if traffic is something that is a concern of yours, Brazil might not be for you, because the traffic was terrifying. Shockingly, we did not see any accidents. I've been in big cities before. I've never seen it quite like this, but the scooters were everywhere. The little mini bikes. I mean, people were coming in and out of traffic. Mainly, it seemed that they were food delivery people, and they would just zip in and out of, drive between lanes. They just had no concept of stay in your lane, because they didn't even have a lane. They would just go wherever they could squeeze, and people would switch lanes. I mean, full cars, full buses, full like trucks with cement. I mean, they would just zip in and out of different lanes, but nobody ever hit anybody else. And I couldn't believe it. Like, their reaction time, absolutely brilliant. If you are faint of heart when it comes to your traffic settings, Brazil ain't for you. I didn't know I could handle it, but I did. But the biggest thing would be the language barrier. It was a 50-50 shot of whether or not we would find somebody who spoke English. That's on us. Like, I fully take responsibility of how overwhelming and intimidating it was to not be in a place where most people could understand you. So I am very humbled, which I probably needed. And I would like to say that every single person who we came in contact with that did not speak our language, they found somebody who did, or they were very patient and very kind as we communicated what we could to each other to get what was needed, like food or transportation or plane tickets. Granted, everybody was in the service industry, sure, but they don't have to be as nice and helpful and patient and kind as they were. But I would also highly recommend learning some basic Portuguese if you ever go, because I mean, I absolutely felt lost. It was sometimes very scary and intimidating, but that's okay. Sometimes we need a reality check to remember that we are not the focal point of the world. I'm going to finish these up. I'm just doing these basic colors at this point. Okay, painting's done, or coloring is done, and I decided to go ahead and do green on this one. It was probably a mistake. Maybe I should have left it all warm colored, but it's a very yellowy green, and I did go back over this with some more yellow, so I'm kind of hoping that once the alcohol's on, it'll look more yellow than this one. It's gonna be fine. They're just cheap shoes that are being colored on. No. They're done. The goal is to look tie-dyed, and I don't think I achieved that effect. And they were kind of a flop. I mean, I'll wear them, but they're not what I had envisioned. Definitely stay away from the tulip watercolor fabric markers, because those were terrible. Just get plain Sharpies. But you know what wasn't a flop? My trip to Brazil. It was awesome. So I'm going to let these dry. They're still covered in alcohol. I'll wash them in cold water, and then we'll see what happens tomorrow, what they look like. I will be back tomorrow to show you the final product that I will wear out in public. Probably, maybe, hopefully. It's the next day, and I'm calling these a flop. Not my favorite, not the worst. I did go back over that kind of warm berry color with the regular purple. I don't know why I put that in there. Like, it didn't make sense for it to go from purple to blue with a warm-ish red purple in there. So I did go back over it. Still not great, but oh well. And I definitely should not have done this. Mistakes were made, okay? Yeah. They're cute-ish. They're just not what I was hoping for. So kind of a flop. Pretty big flop. It's a shame too, because they're really, really comfortable, and they were only $15, and I hate that I spent all summer looking for them last year, and then the project ended up not being what I thought it would. They can't all be winners. So I know for a fact that Friday's project is not going to be a flop, because I've already finished it and I have taken it out in public. People have complimented it. It was just more of a time crunch because I decided less than 18 hours before a thing that I wanted to do it. So that'll be Friday's video. So thank you for watching me color and ramble about Brazil like a 7-year-old. Like and subscribe, you know, all the YouTube things, and I will see you in the next one.